hawk that I took in Homosassa. And the background's a little bit, now you can see here too, remember when I was saying that sometimes a blur background's more distracting than if you can actually see the whole thing? I think this is a case where it is. It's the bird is separated from the background, but your eyes keep on going to that background because it's brighter and it's blurry. So I am going to show you a few little nifty tricks. This is probably for people that maybe are a little bit more advanced, because it is a little bit more advanced, but it's not anything that's totally hard to do. So this is what I start out with. That's what I ended up with, okay? So how did I do this? The first thing I did was, this time I'm going to create my own layer because I'm going to be doing some Photoshop stuff. I kept this other stuff, all the steps here, so I can just follow along as I'm doing it. Don't forget what I did. Okay, so the first thing I did is I created a new background. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select out my bird, and I'm going to use the quick selection tool to do that. So you notice I got a little bit of the background in when I'm selecting the tool, the tree here. A real easy trick is, instead of having to go back up here and hit the minus, if you hit Alt and click, it'll turn this plus into a minus. Same thing over here. You always want to, when you do this, you always want to blow up your picture a little bit and look at it section by section. I'm going to do this faster, so I'll probably miss some of the bird or something, but
this one a little easier because the background was focused on.
it was good contrast and it wasn't a real busy background. If this was all leaves and the leaves were maybe, or trees, where the trees were sort of the same color as this owl, not owl, hawk, it would be much more problematic. This is easier. And you know, like I said, you don't want to see me doing this for an hour while you're sitting here, so I deliberately picked something easy, but the technique is the same, okay? Even though I say I'm just doing this real fast, which I am, there's still a part of me that just has to get that last bit of perfection in. But
Do you have that problem, no quit button? Not knowing when it's enough is enough?
Well, in this case, it will make a big difference if you miss something, because I'm going to show you something that I like to do and I do a lot. Okay, so now I have the bird selected, sort of. But what I want to do is, I don't really want to select the bird, I want to select the background because that's what I'm working on. So let me get this back to normal size. But this is pretty good. This will get, most of the bird. So what I want to do is I'm going to go back up here to selected, invert the selection. So now the background is selected and not the bird. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something in the filter menu, which is called Blur Average. And what that does is it averages out all the colors in that picture and it combines it. It's a good thing to do because it keeps, like if you wanted to put a separate background in, you sort of have to be careful that the background and the tones in the background sort of match this picture, because this picture, the lights and the colors sort of, you know, they reflect on each other. So when you do this, it, you know,
What kind of average did you say you?
it's, you go into the blur filter,
For what?
blur, you go into filter, and then you see blur,
Oh, okay.
and then there's average.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. And now what you can do with this is you can change it to, this is very flat. You don't really want it that flat because it's flat. It's sort of uninteresting. So just take down the transparency and play with it. There's no formula for it, just till it sort of peeks out enough to where you can sort of see there's a background there, okay? And so, okay, so I did that. And now the next thing I want to do is I want to take down some of the saturation in this part of it, because to me it's still too high. Now if I leave this selected, and I come down here into my adjustments, and I click here, I can go to the hue and saturation adjustment. And if I click it, it puts it right on there with the mask. So I don't have to remask the whole thing over and over again. So now I have my mask here. And you see this little hand? If you have that clicked, and it's already clicked here, so I'm not going to do that, but if you come here, you see the eyedropper, it's going to select whatever color you're putting it on, and you can do things with that color. You can take the saturation out a little bit, see, or you can bring it up, or you can bring it down a little. And it's affecting, being it's masked, being the bird is black, the bird is masked out, so it's only affecting the color, and it's only affecting the part that's white on the mask here. All right? And then you can also adjust the lightness, the brightness. See, I can take it all the way bright, all the way down to, or all the way up. So I'm just trying to get it so that the background is pleasing with the bird, basically. So it's a matter of taste. So, and then the background to me is still a little bit too light. So I went into curves. Again, back here into the adjustment. And I picked curves. And now I want to still not affect the bird and only the background, so I'm going to copy the background on to this, the background mask, this mask here, onto here, so that I have the same mask. So I'm going to hit Alt. And that copied my mask right up one more layer. And now I'm in the curves. Now if this is any adjustment that you've seen here, the mask is selected. When you see these little boxes around the mask, that means the mask is selected, but I really want the adjustment selected so that I can work on it. So I clicked here, and now if you look, there are little boxes around the adjustment. And what I want to do is, I want to bring down the tone, just darken it a little bit. And so I'm just doing that, and I'm bringing down the tone. So I went from this to this. And to me, I like that a lot better. Okay? And now, okay. Now what I'm going to do is, I want to go into Nick, but being I have these adjustment layers, you can't go straight from here into Nick, because when you start the adjustment, even though it puts on a separate layer, it looks really weird. So I'm going to do what they call a stamp visible. Now everybody has different ways. Some of them click certain things. The way I do it is I do this. I hit Alt first. I'm going to go into this menu over here. Oops. And I come down to merge visible. And that's going to merge everything, all all the layers that are below this are going to be merged into this new layer. The thing about this that you got to remember is, being this is merged, if you do any adjustments down here, this one is the controlling layer. It's not going to make any adjustments to this once you do that. So if you wanted to make changes later on, you'd have to throw this layer out and start from here. Anything that you do above it is fine. So it's almost like a break-in. You can also just take your layers and just merge them into one layer if you want to, and just start out with a new background layer. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into my Nick program again. Back into Color Effects Pro. And back into my standby dark and light and center. And I'm going to click on the maximum depth so I can see what I'm doing, basically. I'm going to switch this again to this because it's a portrait orientation. And then I'm going to put my spotlight where I want it, which is up here on the burn. And I'm going to do this. And then I don't like this so dark. And I'm going to lighten it up a little bit. Now I was talking to Georgia earlier, and I was saying that, let's say you have this as dark here. In this case, it's not a big deal, but I don't want the tail. I want the whole bird, let's say, to be bright. I don't just want the face. If I put a minus on the tail and bring this down, this works real good if you're doing like a portrait and you have arms and stuff. You see what happened? I got my brightness back onto the tail without affecting this. And you can make sure you can anchor this down by just doing a complete like that, and then just do your alter option and just bring it up here. And I could also do this on the stems if I wanted to. It's the limbs, if you want to. It's up to you. It's, like I said, a lot of it's a matter of taste, but that's a way of sort of adjusting the darken and lightening so that it affects exactly what you want to affect and not what you don't want it to affect.